So pleased to have a conversation with Peter Fleck. He's written a couple of really interesting books. Angel Templar is the one that's the newest that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to also mention his other book as well. He was an active military man for 24 years, huge into martial arts, which will make sense when we talk more about his second book especially, but it's really Angel Templar is a really interesting read. I like that genre. He's done such a great job with it. Honestly, it pulled me in. I was sitting in the backyard. I had some place to be, and I didn't get to that place I was supposed to go to because I was finishing the book. No kidding. So I think that's high praise. And for all of you out there, you'll feel, I think, the same way as well when you read the book. So Peter, thanks so much for hopping on with us.
Well, thank you. And thank you for taking the time and reading my material. I appreciate it.
Of course. And you can tell you have the passion for it, you have the gift, and you are a good storyteller. So tell us about Angel Templar and how that came about and how your writing came about.
I got serious about the writing during the pandemic. Thank you, lockdowns. And like a lot of people, went into a depression in 2020, was locked down, was doing public relations, was absolutely missing all that interaction that I had with people. And I drank for 4 days. The first 4 days of my lockdown, I drank, and then woke up on the 5th day and was just furious with myself. Was like, you will never have this kind of time again. And this is what you're doing? So dumped the booze out, put myself on this really strict regimen, made myself read every day, made myself write every day, was doing prison workouts, was practicing my Spanish, was playing chess, was doing anything to self-improve, and just 50 days straight. And that's when I wrote Cage and knocked it out in 11 days, actually. Was just feverishly writing away, knocked it out in 11 days, and then went to the most important person that a writer can have, and that's that person who will tell you, this is a piece of crap. You gotta have that person in your life. I only need one mom. I only need one person to tell me, hey, that 6-fingered painting of Santa is an absolute masterpiece and it's going on the fridge. Everyone else, I need hard truth. So I gave Cage to my buddy, and he's like, Pete, this is absolutely the greatest thing ever written by a 4th grader. Let's find you an editor. So found an editor, and that's what got me going on Cage. Angel Templar took a little more time to write. Kept hitting some walls, had to go back, do rewrites, re-edit, read this, read that. The research in Templar was a lot of fun. I've got an apparition, a spirit in there. And this is known in the common world as the fourth man. And it's called in Wikipedia. It's in Wikipedia, so you know it's true. It's called the fourth man factor. And the hundreds of cases throughout times where people have experienced this under deep stress, you know, whether in combat, even the last man out of the towers at 9/11 claimed that somebody came and got him. And everybody told them, no, you were the last one. You were the last one out of the building. So I got to incorporate some of that in there. Templar has a lot to do with PTSD. And my main character is a paramedic who served time overseas as a ranger medic in 2nd Battalion Rangers. And just now coming to terms with the incredible amount of stress that he had to deal with overseas. And while I was researching medics and along with everything else to this book, I watched a Ranger video, and I wish I could remember the guy's name because I'd love to give him credit, when he said, being a Ranger medic is just like being a paramedic, except all the calls are on family members. And I was just blown away by this statement, the amount of stress that must cause you. And so He ends up, my main character ends up in an active shooter situation, and the actual motivation for this book was what brought me into law enforcement. I came off of active duty the first time in 1990, and I was going to be a accountant. I always liked how numbers don't lie, unlike words, and back then I was really good with numbers. And I got a job as an unarmed site security supervisor at the City Market downtown Indianapolis. And my first day on the job, I was there 15 minutes and we had a multiple shooting and stabbing. And spent my first day holding this lady's hand while she's vomiting blood up on me and everything. And it really put a passion into me where I felt like, you know what? Maybe I should spend my life trying to make things like this better or not happen at all. And so what really was the spark for Templar. For Caged, my main character, one of my main characters, is a sheriff's deputy in Nevada. And he gets called to a fatality accident, can't handle what he sees, and walks off and just starts directing traffic like nothing's going on. And then I've got another character who is using cage fighting to handle his anger issues, a lady and her son trying to escape an abusive relationship. And then I got a rich guy who's trying to make amends for something horrible that he did. I bring all the characters together, stuck the landing, everybody cries. So, and what was the main motivation for that was one day while I was working as a road officer, I had 2 fatality accidents in one afternoon. And just an amazing amount. And we had a high speed, 2 weeks later, had another head-on high-speed collision that killed everybody in both cars. And so it was just a lot of what if this, what if this, what if this, and then before you know it, you got a story, based on something traumatic that happened to you.
And it's interesting because obviously that's a main theme in what you've seen in your life, as you explained to us with Templar, with explaining to us with Cage, and Kyle is your main character in Angel Templar. When you went and wrote that one, because that was after Cage, which you just poured into, as you said, 11 days, boom, there it is, and then you're tweaking things and all of that. When you talk about the fourth man and that whole phenomenon and how incredible it is to hear people's stories, was it fun to write about that?
It was an absolute joy, and it was even more fun to read about it. I read this entire book called Fourth Man Factor, and I highly recommend it, and it went over so many of those awesome stories. Oh, and by the way, you're going to find a lot of Kyles in my books. Kyle was actually my third child. He passed away when he was 6 months old. So this is it's a great way for me to keep him alive, keep him in my heart. So if you see a Kyle in one of my books, you can already be guaranteed he's going to be the most phenomenal human being that ever existed.
I love that. That's an Easter egg that you told us about. It's a great one. What a great way to honor him. And you've got right behind you PeterFleckBooks.com. That's where you can get both of these books. And when you finished Templar, did you just know, wow, I have something, because it's so unique. Did you know I have something unique here because of the storytelling style and what I think it brings to the table that's a little different than books that might be down that same genre?
Yes, man. And again, when I finished the first draft and gave it to my harshest critic, he immediately was like, hey, that spirit, that apparition doesn't go anywhere. And I'm like, I know, and I take it out. And he said, no, that's what's different about this book. That's something totally. So that's when I went back and found Fourth Man Factor, Fourth Man Syndrome, and really studied up on that and was like, that is perfect. That is exactly the link that I'm looking for, that people can. And how many people have told me about their own experiences?
And I love that. Yeah, because that's rattling around in your head. When people read Angel Templar, what do you hope they take away? I'm hoping they can put some of their guilt down. We all carry some amount of guilt. And especially soldiers, which is absolutely amazing. I've met soldiers, and Happy Veterans Day, by the way, who did 6 combat tours, and felt guilty they didn't do a 7th. Met people who didn't do a single combat tour, no
fault of their own. It's just, that's where the Army sends you where the Army sends you. And they felt guilty about that. I felt guilty who lost a leg in combat and felt guilty they couldn't go back because they left their buddies over there. And then one day I was talking to a friend of mine about, I always felt horrible because I finished my time out as a drill sergeant. And all these kids that I know where they're going after training, and just the amount of guilt was on me. And my friend told me, Pete, imagine those who never even served, how guilty we feel. And it never occurred to me at all. And it's just, this book, a lot of times, I've worked in the military, worked in law enforcement. We forget that everybody has stress. Everybody has experienced probably some form of PTSD and seen some horrible things. And dealing with PTSD and that guilt is mainly what I want the reader to get out of this.
Yeah, and thank you for your service too, because as you say, there's so many people that don't even have no experiences military-wise, and you're right, there is that certain guilt that you carry around with that. If we go back to Caged and what you went through when you put Caged together, and then you realize, oh, this is fun, I like doing this, I'm going to do more of this. When people get to the last page and put it down, same thing, what are you hoping they're thinking?
At the end of Caged, I'm hoping, that kind of gives away the ending.
Don't tell me the ending. Don't tell the listeners, the audience, the people viewing this, the ending.
I guess all I can say is when you finish the book, you'll know.
I love that.
Sorry, I know that's really Mr. Switzerland going neutral, but if I tell you what you're going to get out of it, you're going to, this is what happens.
I love it. Now that you've written these two books, do you have a thirst to do more too as well?
The third one is done. I keep going back to it though. The third one is so dark and powerful. I love putting humor into my books, and had a lot of fun with Templar, with these, I'd flash over to the news media. And that was a great way for me to lighten the mood and tell some jokes and stuff like that. This third one, no. The third one is based on two things. One was when I was doing foster care and Big Brother programs and was trying to get other guys on board. And I had a good friend of mine told me, Pete, if one of these kids makes a false accusation against me, then my career's over. Even if I prove it to be false, my reputation is shot. And what really angered me was he was absolutely right. But my deal was, hey, what if this kid turns out to be something horrible and we had an opportunity to be a positive influence in their life? Whose fault is it? And that's pretty much what the book is about. And when I was in the Philippines in 2019, I read this African proverb that goes, when you don't allow a young man into the tribe, he will burn the village down to feel its warmth. And that's what I start the book off with. And that is so powerful, and so is the book. I've had a few people read it now, and they're telling me this could be the greatest thing that I ever write, which is kind of scary, because I'm like, what if it is? But that's also why I haven't been able to publish it yet. I keep going back to it and going, okay, I want to change this, and I've got to change this. And it's time to just publish it. So it's going to be called The Evil That I Ignored, and it's going to be out real soon, and it is going to blow people away. Ooh. And then I have more stuff in line after that. So.
Ooh, I like that. And in your writing process, because it seems like the writing process was different from what you told us, whether it was Templar or whether you're talking about Caged. What was the writing process like on this other one? Are you just kind of flexible when it comes to you, or people are always fascinated by that? What's that like?
Oh, I was actually writing this other book about a guy who wins the lottery, and who hasn't never thought of that? And I just hit wall after wall after wall, and I'll get it done. And then crossed over to this one, The Evil That I Ignored, and knocked it out in 30 days. Had the whole story written just in no time at all. And that's what's crazy about writing. Sometimes I'm in a frenzy, and sometimes it's you hit a speed bump and another speed bump and another speed bump. But at the end of the day, I can see there's a really good book at the end. I'm writing another one called The Good Father, And as soon as I told my oldest son about that, he said, "Oh, I bet you had to research the hell out of that one." So, too bad I had to have such quick children. But that one is already, I can see that one laid out in my head already. Whereas I've got others that are kind of partially done. I want to do a series. I've got the first book written in it already. My protagonist is an African American female, and not because I'm trying to squeeze some DEI in there. It's because that's who she is, And so I wrote the first book and gave it to another reader, and he said, "Pete, amazing story. Girls don't talk that way." So we're going to have to research women. So
So you get some work cut out for you. Well, it's such a delight to talk to you. You can just see the passion that pours out of you, Angel, Templar, or whether we're talking about Cage or your new books that are coming up. And it's, again, you can look Pete Fleck up, PeteFleckBooks.com, and you can find all of them there and get them there. So please go to Amazon.
Just go to Amazon.com, put Pete Fleck. My books will pop right up, and I sure do appreciate it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What a delight to have you on. Good luck with everything in the future. And thanks so much for coming on Author's Corner.
Kate, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.